Hello there. You are on to the M2M session podcast. We raise kings to embrace their masculinity and amplify their influence in the society. Welcome. The M2M session podcast is about to begin.
Welcome back from the break, guys. Welcome back. So right here with me right now we have Mr. Erete Charles, who's our second speaker for today. Trust me, there's a whole lot I really want to say, but I'm actually, I'm actually withholding myself. So let's go right into it, Mr. Erete. Can you share with us? It's the first question to you. How did you meet your wife, and how did you know she was the one? The reason why I'm laughing is because you've actually shared this story with me before, so I believe every single person needs to hear it also.
All right, thank you. Well, let me begin by answering the question from the back. And it won't be too difficult knowing she was the one when I met my wife. I had already created a mental picture of the kind of woman I wanted to marry, from her spiritual life to her character and things she valued, to her physical appearance and every other things related. I was very intentional about this. Now, this was really vital to me. I knew my path of purpose. So finding someone who was going to be fitting in that path of purpose was one of my highest desires. But I must really say, apart from having a mental picture of who I wanted to marry and also personally being prepared to receive her, God really helped me. Finding her was a product of God's help. I couldn't ever imagine it. God just bridged the connection link. Meeting my wife was one of the greatest miracles I ever had. Now, let me tell you specifically. I met my wife while handling a few business projects for some clients, which she was one of them. She connected with me for the projects through Facebook in 2017 while I was still in the far western part of Nigeria for my national youth service. She was at the time in Calabar, one of the southern cities in Nigeria, but she needed a service, and the one person she tried to connect to was me, having seen a couple of my past projects and was really sure I was going to be fitting for the one she wanted to do. Several months later, after my youth service in the following year, I had the privilege of meeting with her for the first time in Calabar when I came into the city to handle something else at the time. Now, fast forward into a few months after my visit to Calabar, our relationship had transformed from the normal client-based relationship to something very beautiful. It had become much better and we had become comfortable with the friendship. I wanted to marry. I knew the year, but I didn't have someone. Yeah, well, I had someone in mind, but it didn't work out at all. I was in love with someone else, but I didn't know that God had prepared that person as a beautiful gift to another person, and that mine was somewhere close by. So that relationship I thought I had died peacefully before it started. I was praying to God one morning on His leading and clarity on this when I suddenly had a kind of knowing. I'll never forget that morning. All of a sudden, I was convinced that my wife was the person God had positioned on my path. From then on, I was bent on making good investments into our already established friendship. I told her my intentions. She didn't feel the same way as at the time, but some months later, the feeling was mutual and the reply was positive. 2 years later, we got married. Today, I'm really excited that God was involved in every process of the decision.
Kai, the previous relationship died peacefully. It's my desire that we don't get stuck on dead relationship and we learn how to move on. Thank you for sharing that, sir. And like you said, it's always good to have God involved in every process of the decision. Alright, so second question. Some young men had a serious breakup with the lady they thought they would probably get married to, and they haven't been able to recover from this or move on. What will be your advice in order to help them heal from the breakup and move on?
For every guy having a bad experience due to a breakup, I want you to know that I understand what this feeling can be like. It can be one tough emotional experience and deeply hurting at the same time. However, I actually want you to know that you can heal from this hurting experience. Yeah, it's hurting, it's painful, but God probably saved you from an awaiting marital disaster with that relationship. I think looking at it from this perspective will help you in a greater measure. There is something big, better, and amazing that God is preparing for you. A love relationship you never thought would be possible. And God would want you to see it in this perspective. So connect your heart to it and resurrect your hope. Sometimes you may have done everything you thought possible to make things work out, only to meet a dead end. It's possible, and a lot of persons have faced this too. But the best thing some of them did to themselves was to look beyond what happened and see something good awaiting for them ahead. So don't give up, wake up, dust yourself. There's someone ahead of you you are yet to meet who God has fabricated with a wiring fitting for you. That is why I very importantly advise every single person to deepen their relationship with God. Someone who has an amazing relationship with God has a possibility of quickly scaling through this, because he will be able to see what God is seeing in all of this.
Well, guys, you've heard that. You can heal, okay? You can heal. So don't give up. Wake up and dust yourself. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so the third question. A lot of people warn against premarital sex, but no one seems to caution couples about post-marital sex. That's having sexual affairs with someone else other than your spouse, your wife. So, what causes this and what do you think can be done to prevent it?
Okay, to prevent this, one has to know where the problem is. I would outline just 3 things for now. Number 1, poor attitude and value for marriage. Number 2, less intimate communication with spouse and more intimate communication with a colleague who is of the opposite sex. Number 3, fearlessness of God. That you are married doesn't cancel out the desire to lust after someone who is not your wife. What you do not properly handle while you are still single can wait for you when you are married. That's why it's very important to discipline yourself, because the discipline you didn't apply while you were single may give you out sooner than you thought in your marriage. It is discipline that will make someone prefer his wife above every other person. That's what should be. But many persons who don't value this, dishonor their spouse by seeking intimacy outside of marriage. More intimate communications with an opposite sex who is not your spouse can build unnecessary emotions that has caused a lot of married people troubles. When you receive too much emotional comfort from an opposite sex, you will soon be comforted on the bed, and it may not be planned. It will be that emotions got stayed up too far that you both ended up with an uncontrolled desire for sex for each other. That's why you must put boundaries and restrictions on the level of relationship you give to someone who is not your wife or who is not your spouse generally. To prevent all of this, you have to focus on your spouse. Let your spouse be your everything, your attention, your everything. Let your spouse be your primary focus, your primary attention. The Bible says in Matthew 6 verse 22 that if your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. And lastly, ungoverned lives do careless things. When you have the fear of God in you and you submit to his leadership, you will less likely fall for inordinate sexual desires.
Wow, this deserves a standing ovation. Wow, Kai, you said it all, sir. What you don't properly handle while you are single can wait for you while you are married. Kai, guys, you see, for me, like I usually tell people where I am right now, and I can actually have sex with anyone I want, but you see, the question I just ask myself is it the life that I want to continue? You get? So if I'm not able to to curtail the sexual urges when it comes, if all I do is to react to it and not respond to it, what does it mean to react to your sex, to your sexual urges? It means you are taking a recurring action, in the direction that the urges is leading you to. So that moment where you're all high and you pick up your phone and you're going through the numbers of the girls on your phone, you're looking, okay, who is around your town, who is free, who can you call around, who do you know that if she comes around that moment, she will just give in to you. That's reacting. When recently something happened, like for me, this is one of the ways I respond. When it comes, I just pick up my phone. I send a message to one of my covenant brother, like, guy, see what thing they happen, no. Or probably sometimes I'll just keep my phone and I sleep. Trust me, if you sleep and wake up, all this has gone. Yeah, it will go. You get. So let's not be in a haste to always react. We have two heads as men. Let's always learn to use the head up and not always use the head down. Okay, so now that you're single is the best time for you to actually learn, because you see the thing about sexual urges, it is not marriage that will curtail it. It is not marriage that will curtail it. It is now that you can curtail it so that it would be easy for you to remain faithful and committed to one lady. So guys, sexual discipline starts when you are single, and ungoverned lives live carelessly. So ensure that you set boundaries. Okay, Mr. Erete Charles. Over to the fourth question, sir. So we often hear a lot of young men say that they don't want to, say that they want to make enough money, in quotes, before they get married. But some of these young men, we find them spending the little money they have, the little money they so claim to have, on different ladies. So in line with this, what do you have to say about money and marriage?
Well, those guys are not ready for marriage. Also, for someone who says that he doesn't have enough money to marry and yet spends all he already has unnecessarily, is not serious about marrying. You see, in the book of Matthew chapter 13 verse 44, the Bible tells a story of a young man who saw a treasure in a field, which when he saw, went and sold every single thing he had just to come acquire the field. You will do everything possible to see that you get whatever is important to you. Generally, concerning money and marriage, notice guys that money is a very important need in marriage. In fact, your relationship will experience less frictions if you have money too. You should do everything possible to at least have a source that money enters your hand. That's why work is the first thing you should be doing before marriage. God gave Adam work before he gave him a woman, because you should be settled with what can produce what you will use to take care of the woman you are marrying. Else, you will soon run risk of having your relationship choked. So every young man looking forward to the season of marriage, start now. Be engaged in deploying your talent and skills in building your financial channels. Also, build a discipline to only channel it to what matters. For a lot of young men, money isn't the problem. Attitude towards marriage and relationship is the problem. Their value for useful relationship is the problem. You need to pay a special attention to this and you will see the path open up for you.
Wow, I like the point you made. Money is very, very important. It is an important need. In fact, if I might add, finance makes romance enjoyable. Kai, thank you so much for that. All right, Mr. Erete Charles, finally, what are your last words for every young man listening out there?
Yeah, thank you very much. Finally, for the young men listening out there, I would like you to shut your ears from every distraction right now and look at what really matters. Principally, your life should be heading in the direction of your life's purpose before you take the path of marriage. Else, you will make destiny decisions that are not in tandem with your life's purpose. Find God, discover your purpose, find where and how your life can add meaning to things. Build valuable relationships guided by discipline, and you will surely have a success in your choice of a spouse as well as success in your life.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Erete. Thank you so much for the amazing session. Gentlemen, I would urge every single one of you, go back and listen to this particular episode again. And just in case you're just joining us today for the first time, go back and listen to the previous podcast episode. See, How I Met My Wife is not just a relationship series, it's also a personal development series. You get? So I want you to know that you can actually be the father you never had, and you can be the father that you are supposed to be. So go back and listen to this podcast episode again. Trust me, you would learn so much. And finally, it is very possible for you to heal from that heartbreak. It is possible for you to move on. You don't have to be stuck on in the past. It's possible for you to heal. It's possible for you to be whole. But I want you to know that in your process of becoming healed and whole, you will never be healed or whole until the butterfly comes out of the caterpillar's cocoon and says, "Here I am." So you have to make yourself available for help. Reach out. Like I said in last week's episode, in case you need help, you can reach out to me, and I can connect you to any of the speakers for mentorship. See, as a young man, this is one of the things that you should do for yourself before you get married. You should have a mentor over your life. You should have someone that you submit to. That's going to bridge the learning gap. It's definitely going to bridge the learning gap. Thank you so much for tuning into today's podcast episode. Till I come your way next time with another amazing episode from this relationship and personal development series, I remain your host, AI. Cheers.